And welcome everyone to a hopefully very spirited Isles Talk episode here this evening. I'm still a dead man. It's going to happen at some point. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Kreischer. Joining me this evening, Joe Panettiere and Gary Harding, the man who has created every social media for the Islanders, and he's going to be on a rant tonight, folks. And it might be a little bit about me, but it'll be about something else as well. So, hi guys, how are you?
Good, Paul. How's everything?
Yeah, all right, we're good for now. Before we get started here, in all seriousness, it's time to congratulate two Islanders. First one coming up, we've got Zdeno Chara, most NHL games played by defenseman, 1,652. Guys, obviously he's an automatic first ballot Hall of Famer. Let's have a little fun here. Where would you rank Zdeno in terms of defenseman? Top 10 all time?
Good, Gary.
Top 15?
I think the offensive numbers kind of make him be a little bit lower than 10. But, I mean, obviously, you're a freak of nature, a man that, played through 4 decades, a warrior. There's no doubt he's a first ballot. I would say if his offensive numbers were a little bit higher, then maybe top 10, but I would say just below. And that's not a knock on him. That's just the facts on how the whole kind of recognizes defensemen, in the last 30 or 40 years. Bobby Orr was the springboard which came, to the Potvins and the Coffees and all the ones that below him and the Lidstroms and such. So I think that's because his numbers weren't as high as those guys were, that he would just fall just a step below.
I have to agree with Gary.
Go ahead, Joe.
He doesn't have the those gaudy offensive numbers. So I would say he's in the top 15, but you also have to look at some of the teams he played on.
True.
That were just coming together, that weren't very good. Okay. And but I would put him in the top 15.
Okay. Any chance he could be an Islander next year?
Wow.
Yeah, I love putting you guys on the spot.
Yeah. Well, save it for later. I don't know. It's you're never going to be able to read, somebody's mind, at the top, and I'm sure teams that are going, for a playoff push could use the experience of Zdeno. You're not going to get a 25 a minute, player, but you're going to get a 5-6D guy that can play, in your penalty killing situations and in your shutdown situations. And he could be a factor, but again, I just think with the Islanders situation, no one knows other than the brain trust, if they're going to think about doing anything. And I don't think they know what they're doing at this point.
Fair enough.
I don't think it would hurt bringing him back, but
sure,
if a kid like Hutton is lights out in camp, or he's playing lights out on Bridgeport, then I think you just got to tell him, hey, look, thank you, but now we got to give the kids a shot.
Fair enough. Yeah, I like that. So, congratulations once again to Zdeno Chara, most games played by a defenseman, and we'll see where his future takes him in a couple of weeks, if at all. Moving forward, again, another congratulations have got to go out to Zach Parise, number 400 in goals. Guys, I'm not gonna lie. He was the one I wish Milbury had traded for or drafted way back when instead of Nielsen. And it's still my personal hope that Parise stays this year because I will be in that bidding for his jersey. I know Kimmy's going to probably go after Chara. I won't even bother, but Parise's that one jersey I probably would get. He's had one hell of a turnaround. He's always said he's a second half guy. He's starting to show it now with Barzell and Palmieri on the first line. What has Zach brought to this team so far this season, and does he come back next year, do you guys think?
I don't think I've ever seen any part of a game this year where I've strictly paid attention that Zach has not put effort out. You know, I mean, you know, and I'll get to this on the rant. I mean, some people, you know, have to complain for the sake of complaining, but there's never not been an effort. You know, whether there's been a results, and like we said, we all know that Parise's been known as a second half player. That his numbers to start the season always have been not say abysmal or dismal, but low. I've never ever questioned the effort, and people that do are just not watching the right game, because he's always giving his all every time he goes out there, and that's infectious because that makes other guys want to do it too. So you know, I hope they don't trade him. Again, he's another one that if you're looking at the team, you know, if you're looking at, you know, who could help you on a playoff run, he's definitely one of those guys. And you can and he's one of them. You could slot him anywhere, just like the Islanders have done. He's been on the top line. He's been on the fourth line. Wherever his role is, he not only takes it, accepts it, but thrives in it.
Parise thrives in the system that Trotz has the players playing. He brought stability to the lineup. Didn't show the first few games. Came on later on as he got comfortable, had to learn the system. But I have to agree with Mark Alberti. He's there for the young kids. He's there to show them how to play. And that's what he's doing. He's the calming factor. Something like Butch Goring was when they brought him in. He calmed that locker room down. He's a leader. He's a winner. And he's a great example for these kids to follow. He works hard every game. You get the same effort every night out of him. You might not hear his name called, but you don't score 400 goals in the NHL not knowing how to play hockey. So that's it. He's
already been to the Stanley Cup Finals with the Devils.
He's good at what he does. He's good at what he does. He's a good player.
So, yes or no? Joe, do you think he comes back next season?
I think you have to bring him back next season. I think he comes back.
Gary?
Yeah, for sure. I take him
Cool.
in a heartbeat. I take him.
I'm also gonna go. Yes, I think Zach Parise comes back next season. So, again, congratulations going out to Zach Parise, 400 goals in the NHL. We'll talk about Hall of Fame and whatnot later on with Zach at another time, because I don't think his career's completely over yet. But
Not by a long shot.
no, not by a long shot. Gary needs to talk, boys and girls. Yes, God help us all. And Gary, I'm gonna show the tweets that went absolutely ballistic on Twitter just a day or two ago, and you know, I'm just gonna let you vent, my friend. The mic is yours. Move up a little bit closer so that way everyone can hear you.
Yes, sir.
And tell us your piece.
Again, for those that don't know me, and there are people that don't, let me just give you a little background. Number one, I have never been an ice hockey player. Okay, I have been a student of the game for now over 50 years. My first hockey game was in 1969. at Madison Square Garden. I really think I've learned the game over the years enough to be able to talk to people that know the sport and feel like I can do it with some semblance of intelligence. Okay. I don't tend to tweet that often. I used to have to do it when I was on my radio show, but it just drives me crazy to follow a lot of things and stuff. And this year, with the season that the Islanders have had, and especially with what's going on with the 13-game road trip, the COVID situation, the unfortunate lack of brevity, or not brevity, but really the lack of respect that the Islanders got from the NHL by forcing them to play games where other teams didn't, and they had less people out or what have you. It's brought out, unfortunately, the negative fan in droves. And I got to a point on Saturday morning, as I was waiting for my wife. We had to go out and do some shopping, and I was just sitting around looking at stuff on Facebook and looking at stuff on Twitter, and I really started to get mad. I'm like, I had the fortune, the pleasure, if you will, for a few years of getting to actually cover the team at home games. I actually got to go into the locker room, got to interview players, interview coaches. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity. They called it the blog box when I had started Eyes on Isles before Isles Talk. I got the opportunity, and it was such a great experience. And it taught me so much about what goes on inside a locker room. The interaction with the players, the interaction with the coaching staff, the relationships. You get a little bit from the articles that Andrew writes and Kevin Kurtz and them, and they do a great job, an unbelievable job. They really get a good sense of the room. But you don't, unless you've been in there, and unless you see the interactions between players, between themselves and what goes on, you don't know anything. And I'm not saying, and I wasn't putting that out to people saying that you don't know hockey, you don't know the Islanders, you don't know what's going on. But unless you're there, and granted, I'm not there either. So I'm not saying I know more than you or less than you, but some of the comments that people were making, putting vitriol on a Hall of Fame coach, on a Hall of Fame general manager, just because they didn't get to the promised land, which a lot of experts thought we were going to, that it didn't work out, that these people should be gone. They should be just like dumped to the wayside. It's just, I get your fans, and I get the meaning of the word fan from fanatic. I say it to myself all the time sometimes before I write things. But these guys, number one, never stop working, even though it sometimes doesn't look like they are. They may have dips in the sine curve, if you will, but these guys are professionals, and they're putting their butts on the line and playing their tails off. It doesn't necessarily get the results we have. Yes, we are an older team. Yes, we have struggles sometimes defensively. Varlamov had a tough year. Chara started out bad and has done well of late. The Salo/Aho situation hasn't worked out the way everybody thought it was going to work out. But you know what? Why rip the team? Yes, right off the season, we had a bad year. Things were tough. But you know what? These guys still need support. These guys still need to know that the fans are on their side. Yeah, you could be upset at a game. You could be ticked off. Hey, I was ticked off Friday night at the LA game, how lackluster they came out. You have a right to be. And you have a right to say, maybe, you can second guess Trotz or whatever, but some of the vitriol that comes out, I had enough. And that's why I put out saying, look, I'm never going to waver. I've stuck through 30-something years of garbage teams, of Milbury, of Spano, of all these people. Some of these younger kids don't know about all the, pardon the expression, crap that we fans, that you, Paul, and Joe, that we dealt with for years and years and years. They don't understand. They don't understand it. Yes, we were one goal away from the Stanley Cup Finals last year. That's great. That's wonderful. But I remember when we lost 10 in a row in 1997 and how bad we were and how, it's hard to put the words up, but all I'm asking, and all that tweet was kind of doing, was saying, you could be upset at the team. You could be mad at the team. You can really feel frustrated that, why is Barry Trotz not playing Oliver Wahlstrom all the time? And I can have a good argument with you on why it's not. And you have your opinion. You have every right to it. And that's the one thing I didn't say in that piece that I really should have. No one's saying you don't have a right to feel how you feel, say what you want to say. But is it going to help support the team? I don't think it is. Because the same people that moan and groan about everything that goes wrong with the Islander team, coaching, players, what have you, they turn around and have a 5-game win streak. It's like they never said those words in their life. And that's what got me. That's the real thing that got me going. So to put this vitriol or put this little statement down to the end, all I say is this. You could be upset with your team. You could feel the way you want to feel. But don't take the support away. Keep rooting for this team. They're going to as Paul and I have talked about, and Joe, I'm sure you have too, this team can retool very quickly and turn this whole thing around in a matter of a week. Okay? Once the season's over and everything goes. There are things they can do from now until March 27th or whatever the trade deadline day is. There can be things done. The team can pull on a win streak. Luke can pull some magic. The odds are tough, but it's there. There's still, despite the things that have happened, there is a way to make this team spin the other direction. Just have faith in the brain trust. They know what they're doing. They're not going to be Hall of Famers for nothing. They had a bad year. Teams have bad years. It happens. But don't waver your interest. And I'm willing, again, you see my Twitter handle at IslesMet63. I'm willing to discuss it with you. And if you got something that, you don't like what I said, I'll be happy to have a pleasant, gentlemanly, humanly discussion with you. But if you're going to trade barbs, I ain't going to deal with you, because I'll gladly accept your difference of opinion, but I'll give you mine. And I think I've said enough.
Bravo, sir.
Very nice.
Experience.
Well, Joe and I were going to ask you real quick, Gary. We were talking about the Islanders last week, and we thought that the Islanders window was at least 4 years to go after a Stanley Cup, and we felt this was still year 3 out of that 4-year window. In your humble opinion, do you think the Islanders can still go after a Stanley Cup next season?
Yes, I really do. Again, like I said, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, that the fact that you've got a $15 million hold for next year, plus whatever trades you make at the trade deadline or whatever moves you can work around. Again, sake of argument, let's just put it up there. Cal Clutterbuck with a $3.5 million contract. That's the big juicy talk. So if they deal him, that gets you to $19 million. There's a couple of deals you may pull in there. You might get another $1 million off. You're talking $20 million. We talked about the defense improving. You got Aho, and we'll talk about it later. How he's had such a great last 2 weeks. Robin Salo has had moments in the NHL where he's played well, and he's doing okay down in Bridgeport. Of course, we know how Noah's doing. You've got Ryan Pulak back healthy. You got an all-star in Adam Pelech. There's 5 right there. And you talked about Hutton. That's 6. That's 6 solid defensemen that are not of an older age. Yes, I mean, we thank Chara for everything and Andy Green for everything they've done for taking number 8 and turned him into the player he's become. Because you may moan and groan about the age and old in the tooth and whatever, but those 2 guys right there are directly and 100% responsible for what you see in Noah Dobson right now. So stop yelling at him and thank him. Both of them, I should say. But yeah, I really think the retooling can be simple, can be easy. And now with another year of development with Wallstrom and Bowles, and that, I think this team can turn around faster than anybody can think.
I got a question for you, Gary. Well, it has to do with the same thing we were talking about last week. We said, like, again, the 4-year window with the core group of guys, Lee, Bailey, whatever. When do you start dismantling that core group? Because eventually you're going to have to.
Yep.
Do you give them next year and the following year, just write this year off as, hey, look, we had a black cloud over us with COVID and everything like that? Do you keep them around 2 more years as a core group?
Well, I think well, that's what I wrote in the tweet. I say this year's a write-off year. Forget about it. I mean,
right, we agreed with that. Yeah.
I think if you put any good team in that same situation, put a 13-game road trip to start the year, have your problems with COVID. You know, granted, the arena is beautiful, but going into a new facility and dealing with everything with that, all those things put together. And by the way, isn't it great that it feels like I'm having an earthquake shaking as I'm banging on my desk? Put any team in that situation, and I don't think they would have done any differently, you know, than what the Islanders did. I really don't. That's unprecedented. Yeah, somebody said the Canucks had a long trip and they had 105 points years back, but a different league than it is now, with parity and in the league in such great shape as it is. I don't think teams would have been able to suffer that. As to the comment somebody said, I think it's my old buddy Sweeney, about 2 years in the semifinals. Hey, good teams have bad years after you know, a great season. Look at the 87 Mets. The year, him being a big Met fan, the year after the Mets won the World Series. Anybody remember how the 87 Mets did? Not that good.
Right.
No.
So
look at going back to hockey. Look at the '96 Devils.
Yeah.
96 Devils, I don't think made the playoffs after winning the Stanley Cup.
They didn't. Didn't the Rangers not make the playoffs after winning the Cup?
95?
I don't know if it was 96.
Didn't I?
95 they won the Cup because that was a
95.
shortened season. I think 96 they missed. It was either 96 or 2001. It was one of those two where they just missed the playoffs after winning the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
It happens.
And Paul made a good point. Belmont isn't home until you get 20 to 25 games under your belt and get used to that arena.
Yeah, you're a visitor.
Exactly.
Too. You know, you don't know the idiosyncrasies of everything. You know, everybody knew the boards. You know, at the Coliseum. You know, if you hit it in a certain spot, that puck may bounce off or whatever, and they're still learning it. You know, but you know they play better at home. You know, minus the Seattle game, of course, and minus the Montreal game, but they played considerably better. And like I said, it was just a series of things that just hit. And again, I don't think any good team would have done as, you know, they may have done better, but I think all teams would have suffered some way because of that scheduling. There's just and when everything happened.
Right.
So that's what I say. You write the year off. You know, looking at, you know, you can possibly move players around a little bit. You know, like I said, I think Clutterbuck, you know, as much as I like him, I don't think he's much longer. You're seeing probably the end of Matt Martin. Again, it's not a big contract, but you obviously, you got to play Ross Johnston, especially last game. He just showed that he could be that person to take over that role. There's ways you can slowly do it over, a couple of years to move it in. So, like I said, let's just call this year 3B and still give it the 5-year plan. Give next year 4 and the year after 5. Because at that point, I think you probably will, and if things don't work, then you can dismantle a little bit more, and you still got, some kids coming up, you still got the kids in Europe. You got a couple of kids in Bridgeport doing well. I think this way, and with the money you have, again, retooling is a lot easier than it was, say, 10 years ago.
Right.
Agreed.
I agree with you.
So let's help Gary out with that little trust the process, trust Lou, have a little more faith in Trotz, at least in terms of development here. Guys, Noah Dobson is literally having a coming of age season for the Islanders, and this is a photo here of Noah Dobson since 1920, the 2019-2020 season. These are all the games that Noah Dobson has played, and these are all the players he surpassed, and look who he's catching up to.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically at the same point percentage as Ryan Pulock. Nick Leddy was a little bit more, but again, Noah Dobson is only in his 3rd season, and it's not even a full season. The development is there. The development is working. And for those of you who follow Isles Talk more than others, the rest of you know that I follow the draft. It's one of my favorite things to do. I'm still going to tell you guys right now, you have not seen the tip of the iceberg yet with Noah Dobson. He's got 26 points so far this year on a defensive-minded system. Imagine next year when Lou adds a little more offense and another puck-moving defenseman to this team. Am I going to say 50 points for Noah Dobson? Yeah.
Well, anybody that listens to us and listened to me for years on WGBB knows how I feel about Noah Dobson. I've been saying it all along. A man, in juniors, a man playing a kid's game. And that's exactly what he looked like. And Paul, Paul and I kept saying, yep. We were watching the Memorial Cup 3 years ago. It's like, this kid is going to be the deal. And they were saying in the draft how we stole to get Noah Dobson. And, you just, with every single game, I'm just watching something else I see. Just those little things, those little almost knock hockey passes he's been making that have really gotten the play going through the neutral zone. Those little things that you see out of a Nick Lidstrom kind of a player, or or Cale Makar, looking in the contemporaries. Those types of things, you're seeing it out of Noah now, and he's 22 years old.
Joe, give me your thoughts on Noah Dobson. Who does he remind you of? And, where do you think he can go?
Well, sky's the limit with him. That's number one with his talent. He's how could I say it? They're giving the kid time to play, and he's only going to flourish. Let him make his mistakes. In the system we play in, he can make those mistakes. Oh, who does he remind me of? Oh, wow.
I'm going to go Kenny Janssen with the offensive flair.
That's a good comparison. I was going to say more like Schneider that played for Montreal.
Ooh.
That's what I
And
was
the
going to say.
Islanders, and also another
Yes,
former Islander, Matthew Schneider's a good one.
Matthew Schneider. He has that quiet defensive ability, but he could be explosive with moving the puck. And you and I both said, this season, would he be the Nick Leddy replacement? No. He definitely made strides in doing that, but I think next year he's going to be the Nick Leddy replacement. You got to just give him a little more time. His game is there. He's just got to polish it. And you said that last week.
Similar skating too. Because Nick Leddy, again, he took 3 strides and he was halfway down the ice. You're starting to see it with Noah too. And that's what I say, it's the right-handed version of Nick Leddy. And, we'll be saying Nick who next year for sure.
Is he a Norris Trophy candidate next season?
I wouldn't put that pressure on right now.
2 years.
Yeah, I like that answer.
Let him play. Let him play.
2 years. Let him have fun. I said that last week. Let these kids have fun now. That's it. Let them learn the game. Yep. Let them make their mistakes. The season's a wash. I mean, nobody's admitting it. Nobody wants to. Everybody wants them to make the playoffs. All of us do. But in reality, let the kids play.
Agreed. And for those of you worried about Wahlstrom and Bellows not playing as much as they should be, guys, that's already been communicated between Trotz and those guys. They always have an open door policy. They know exactly what's going on. They know the path that they're supposed to be on. Wahlstrom will get his time. Bellows will get his time. There are just certain steps that these guys need to take that Dobson has already taken. Dobson has already taken. Wahlstrom is doing it now. Bellows is doing it now. And when their game comes together, look out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to happen sooner than later. So, having said that, it's water cooler talk time. You guys fire out any questions, comments, concerns, any trade rumors you've heard. Are there any players you want to see gone? We're going to give you an update on Josh Bailey. As of right now, I can't see him being traded. I know he's out there. A couple of teams have expressed interest in him. The feeling I'm getting right now is that the Islanders are probably not going to trade him. So for those of you who wanted Bailey gone, you're probably going to have to wait when, if it's an actual dire need that the Islanders need to trade Josh Bailey. I don't see it happening.
I still fall into the opinion that I don't think any general manager in their right mind would trade a player that is approaching 1,000 games with the same club. It's just a total piece of disrespect to the player. I mean, regardless of what you feel about Josh, and everybody knows my opinion, Paul especially the woman that's upstairs listening. It's just not the right thing to do. And I know, and again, like Lou or hate Lou, Lou's not that type of a person. And he respects the player and the family and everything else more than necessarily the hockey situation. So, with maybe let's say next season, if something similar happens, if the team is down a little bit, then maybe that could possibly be. But let's get to the water cooler.
So, all right, Dave Goldberg, why would Trotz put Wally number 9 in a shootout against Philly? Same thing we talked about. Wahlstrom has to do other things during the game to get moved up in that shootout, just in that particular game. Did they expect to go number 9? Probably not. But again, that was the learning curve that Wahlstrom had to learn. And from what I was told, Trotz and Wahlstrom already talked about it. That's already water under the bridge. I'm sure he'll use him again much earlier this time, but it's a growth process for Wallstrom. This year, Joe said it, and so did Gary. It's a wash, but it's a development year for some of these younger kids. That's why Parise's in here. It's why Chara is here. It's why Green is still here. It's all part of the growing process for these kids. And Wallstrom is just going through the growing pains. And we'll start to see, probably by the end of this season, maybe a coming of age for Oliver Wallstrom, where it's his entire game coming together as he lets the game come to him. So, gentlemen, any opinions on that?
Spot on.
Okay.
I agree.
Joe?
I think Wallstrom has to up his game, drive the net, use his body, be physical. And like I said, just stop. He's got to stop at the top of the circle and playing that game. He's got to go to the net. He's got to take on the defenseman. I forgot what highlight I was watching last night. One of the players on, I think it was the Senators. Big kid, went right through the two defensemen and one of the forward and scored. That's what he's got to do. If he's 1-on-3, go straight to the net. Take him out.
And he is going to be hard to be taken off. Taken off his skates.
He's got to use his body. That's what it comes down to. He's got to be physical.
Thomas Boyle, with Washington completely falling apart, do you think the Islanders have a chance to catch him? I don't think the Capitals are falling apart. And I am still in the no, I don't think the Islanders have a chance to catch him. The Islanders are still one NHL game under 500, past the halfway point. For me, that's the sticking point. And the Washington Capitals right now are still on pace for 99 points. So if this is their low, they're going to kick it up again at some point, and they're probably going to finish the season with over 100 points. So as much as I would love to give the Islander fans hope, I'm very skeptical. I personally already have the Islanders out of the playoffs. But Gary, what are your thoughts? Do the Isles have a shot?
It's just realistic. I mean, I'm a financial analyst. I'm a numbers guy. I it's very simple to see. You're on pace for 81, 82 points. You go 5 or 6 games over 500, that could get you to 90. But as you said, the Capitals are on pace for 99. They've slipped a little bit. They've got an issue here or there, but that doesn't mean they're going to go into a complete total free fall. There's too many things that got to happen. And, if you're, what's that guy's name that does the Caesar Sportsbook commercials? But if you're one of those guys that just thinks, everything's good's going to happen, then yeah, you could believe that. Can a 17 game point streak happen? It could. Realistically, I don't think so. And as much as I want to say, on February 28th that, we still could have a shot to be playing hockey in May, it's just almost mathematically not feasible.
No, it would take a major catastrophe for the Capitals to fall apart, and whatever happens, they'll fix it. But not only that, you still have teams you have to climb over.
Columbus.
You still have
Detroit.
teams that you have to climb over. And that's it. I mean, you're not like right below the Capitals. You still got other teams you have to climb that are in your way. Granted, we have a lot of divisional games, which would help. But sure. I barring a major collapse, forget it. Like Ovechkin and another player going down, it's not. I don't see it.
Now, having said that, boys and girls, I don't think the Islanders are going to dip much further than 9th in the NHL lottery, because that's where they currently are.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they're on pace for. The next team in 8th place are the Senators and the Chicago Blackhawks. I believe they're on pace for like 68 points.
Mm-hmm.
Big gap between 68 and, say, 81 right now. I don't see the Islanders finishing the season 8 games below the NHL 500. right now, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter whether you play the kids or whether you play the pros. Right now, it doesn't matter. After the trade deadline, play the kids. Because again, it's not going to matter.
No.
And again, for those who follow, I follow the draft. This upcoming draft is the same as 2018. I'm going to be giddy if we land anywhere between 9 and 13 because it won't matter. There's no difference. Actually, there's no difference between 9 and 15 right now.
Right.
So the Islanders can play the kids. They're still going to land between 9 and 15. The Islanders can play the pros. They're still going to land between 9 and 15. And I'm telling you right now, if there's a centerman or a right-handed defenseman available at any of those slots, that's who the Islanders should take. Hands down. That's my draft preview right there. Okay. When we were supposed to do the draft, it was going to be a very easy, okay, the Islanders are going to be picking somewhere between 29 and 32. That was the expectation. Now we're back to 2018, where we literally had Noah Dobson and Oliver Wahlstrom fall into our laps.
Right.
That's exactly what this draft is going to be. And there's a couple of players who could be part of a future core for this team. So as far as I'm concerned, the Islanders just need to finish this season healthy, no one injured, no major long-term injuries, finish the season, and we go from there. This might actually be a blessing in disguise because this is a draft where you build a new franchise around. If the Islanders continue to grab a few more picks, hey, we missed the playoffs for one season. We replenish the stock of players. We bring them up around the same time the players that we drafted a couple of years ago because they're all going to come together around year 3. They're all going to get together. And this is what Joe and I were talking about last year. From a draft pick point of view, all these prospects, they're all going to be in Bridgeport 2-3 years from now. Get ready, folks. This is what you want out of the organization. This is just going to be a blip. This is going to be a year that, yes, we opened up UBS Arena. Wonderful. That's all we're going to remember. We'll remember Zdeno Chara. We will remember Zach Parise. We will remember this year as a coming of age for Noah Dobson. But there's a lot more coming towards us, especially in the offseason. And let's not even debate this. The Islanders are going to be buyers. They don't have to be at the trade deadline, but they're going to be buyers. If Lou's going to have a chance to win the Stanley Cup again, he's always going to be a buyer. Lou is going to be in UBS Arena for God knows how long. He's going to be a buyer. There's no doubt about it. So, yes, are they going to go after free agents? You bet. Are they going to have to work under his terms? Yeah. But when you have a brand new arena, you have state-of-the-art practice facilities, you're living in New York, but not really living in New York, like city-wise, you got the best of both worlds. You want to win a Stanley Cup? Okay, take a little less money, but good. You're now going to be here with a chance to win the Stanley Cup with all these young prospects coming for the next 4 years after that. So, Islander fans, don't worry about it. Gary, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, just remember, folks, when Paul's giddy right now, but when he gets excited, look out.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And like I said,
I've already been looking at the that 2022 draft. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and again,
and that's Paul's forte. I mean, I rip Paul as I do from time to time. When it comes down to the draft, I really trust everything he says when it comes down to to what's going on with the draft.
Well, we all said that. Oh, sorry, Paul. Okay.
No, go ahead, Joe. Go finish it.
Well, we said once Belmont opened, the Islanders were no longer a small market team. So now they got to be competitive every year. That's just the way it is. And I think we said the players that would be drafted this year, we would see in year 5 at Belmont. Is that what we said?
Basically, at most.
Right.
At most, no. In this upcoming draft, I would not be shocked if any of these kids were coming up by year 3.
Okay.
By year 3 at the absolute latest. But again, you have the kids like Simon Holmstrom, Atu Ratu. These kids were drafted in years where the draft wasn't necessarily bad, but the kids were going to take a little longer with their development.
Right.
Now you throw in the kids of this draft, you get them all together. Maybe a new coach in Bridgeport this upcoming season. All this talent coming together. And then you just bring the kids up whenever you can. You got the organizational depth that you need to take a cup run for a few years. The blueprint is all there, folks, and it just got better because the Islanders can write off a season like this. There is a positive to all the negative going on. And for some of us, it's tough, but you're going to have a little more patience. But we can get back to the Stanley Cup Finals. It's going to happen. It may happen next year, but we'll see. For me, I'm more particularly interested in the draft than I am free agency. For those of you worried about Philip Forsberg, I know he's been told, or it's been told that he is available right now. Me personally, I think that's a great move by the Predators because now you can find out what you can actually get in the market for him, and if you're blown away, Joe, I don't know if you're Dave Poyle. I think you got to make that move.
Yeah, if he's getting Tarasenko, I make that move.
Yeah.
I mean, could you imagine those two players? I mean, it won't happen, but could you imagine them flip-flopping teams?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
The Predators get a goal scorer. I mean, what they need. And St. Louis gets a nice two-way player.
Craig Berube guy.
Yeah, I mean, Predators are missing Victor Arvidsson big time. They let him go to LA, and they realize they needed that sniper guy, and flip flopping Tarasenko and Forsberg around would be brilliant for both sides of the equation.
Yeah, and I actually have the Predators upsetting whoever they play in the first round.
That could be St. Louis.
That could be.
Ooh.
They're my dark horse.
Okay.
They're my dark horse.
Okay. And for those of you who want Johnny Gaudreau, the vibe I'm getting is that Gaudreau is probably going to re-sign with the Flames. So now you're down to maybe Philip Forsberg, which I don't know if he'll make it to free agency. I think that'll be a sign and trade somewhere else, but we'll see what happens. Johnny Gaudreau probably staying with the Flames at this point. Anybody else out there that you're looking for a sniper in the free agency? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
So again,
that's why you've got the pieces that you say that we have, and the potential of what you're going to be able to draft, and it's going back a few years, and it's going back to people say, oh, we're going to go back to the kids again, but you've got a base. You've got a base now, and you've got money in the bank where we didn't have. So don't feel like it's going to be another 5 years or so. Believe me, this retool can happen just like that.
No, Nick Leddy's on this team. The Islanders are probably in the playoff race.
Yep. And for Lou to do what he had to do, I mean, granted, I dread every day that I see Devon Toews on the first place Colorado Avalanche, but it was a move that had to be done.
Yeah.
So that 2 years down the road, he'd have the room to build back up again.
Right.
It was kind of the mistakes of the previous organization, or the previous brain trust, plus all the things that had to be done to be able to get to this point. And people don't realize, they just Lou isn't getting this, he isn't getting this, he isn't getting this. Yeah, but he's getting you the money so that next year you can get the other guys that you need to fill the holes. So it's not an instantaneous thing being a general manager and working on your organization, you're looking 2024, 2023, 2025 even. You're looking 3 years down the road to determine what you're going to do next.
Paul, I disagree with you with the Letty thing. And the
Okay.
reason why is I don't think a player would have made a difference with where we are now, because it was more of the situation, the road trip, the new arena, COVID, and bringing all those players up from Bridgeport when we had, what, 8 or 9 players down?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think one player, don't get me wrong, he might have turned 4 or 5 losses into maybe wins. We might have been a little closer.
Well,
in the standings.
I had said playoff race. I don't think the Islanders would be eliminated right now.
Right now. All right.
I think be a little
I
bit
agree
better
with that, but I
Yeah.
just don't. With the situation,
I don't know if they'd make it even with Nick Letty. I don't know if they would have made it
Right.
with Nick Letty, but I think they probably would have been in a better position. Like, for example, I think they'd probably be in 9th place right now, sole possession of 9th place,
Right.
maybe 4 games over the NHL 500. But still,
Right.
I don't think they would have enough to catch Washington without them being buyers at the trade deadline.
And in a sense, unfortunately, having to shuffle Nick Letty off, I'm not saying it would have happened or would not have happened, but it may have not seen the growth of Noah come up as much too.
Agreed.
Because he's assuming a lot of things. Because his play's gotten so much better, he's been able to take care of some of the number one on the power play role and get more time on the penalty kill and do all these other things. If Nick Letty was around, he may not have been able to progress as high on a high of a curve as he's doing right now.
Right. Well, that's what happens when you have consistently. When you're in the lineup consistently, you grow. When you're in and out, you're just learning the game. You have to have patience with a player. And we'll use Bellows as an example. Okay? I was telling Paul when we were off the air before, he shows flashes of brilliance. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But like Paul said, it's a flash.
Yeah.
Now that this season's going to be a write-off, you got to throw him in the lineup every night. Let this kid grow. Let him step into that lineup next year and be a regular. That's what you have to have.
Well, you guys you mentioned before, Paul. The little stat that I didn't think about until I heard it. Saying that Sebastian Aho has gotten assists in 5 straight games. I mean, 6 or 8 weeks ago, we were ripping him to shreds and like, what is he doing here? Well, he doesn't belong. Should he go back to Sweden even or whatever? And he went to Bridgeport, worked on his game, and he has progressed wonderfully. And, you get that, and you have Robin Salo, who had, points of very good play in the NHL, needed to go back and work on his game, and I think he's doing just that. So that's what I like, that, you've got Noah making his rapid progression. You got Aho picking it back up again and showing what he can do. You bring Robin back in to show what he can do. It's just, things you wouldn't have expected to say in January, but you're saying now on the 1st of March. There are good things to think about if you stop complaining. Back to my right.
I want to ask Gary a question.
Go ahead.
Gary, I don't follow Bridgeport the way you and Paul do, okay? But if you're an NHL scout and you're looking to better your defense, who on Bridgeport right now is the defenseman you go after?
Since he's there, it's either Salo or Hutton.
That's who you said, Paul. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Witherspoon, but, you got was it Helgeson, the captain or whatever? Yeah, they're AHL guys. They're not, but Hutton has improved dramatically. There were signs last year that he could make that step, but he's definitely, I think those 4 or 5 games that he got to play here with the COVID situation kind of sparked him a little bit, and his game and again, I don't see as much as Paul does. I will admit he's more in tune to the AHL game than I am. But but from what I've heard and from seeing the tweets from Alan Fearing and stuff, they're very, and Mike Fornalbier from the Connecticut Post, they're very I think the organization is very impressed with Grant Hutton right now, and that's a good sign.
So,
Cool.
and for those of you worried about why Robin Salo's not here, the reason why he's not here now is because he's getting the minutes down in Bridgeport, so that way he can come back after the trade deadline. Okay. Yep. He's getting all the minutes down in Bridgeport right now, so that way after the trade deadline, Robin Salo will be back up here. So again, don't worry about it. He'll be back up, barring any injuries. Robin Salo will be back after the trade deadline, which we're only talking 3 weeks away now, and he'll probably be here for the rest of the season. So it's all part of the plan that kind of took a little longer to take, but they're still on the right path. They're still ready to go. And again, you got plenty of hockey to watch. You've got plenty of veterans to see if they still have it. You get to watch the kids to see and watch them mature and see if they are actually going to be a part of something bigger heading into next season. So any other questions, comments, concerns, guys? Anybody else here? Devils are smoking the Canucks. Good. 6-1. Nice. 6-2 now. Yeah, I mean, the Capitals dropping, it happens. It's what I had been saying for weeks now. There had to have been at least one or two teams to come down a little bit to earth. And the Capitals just happened to be that team, which is great. Unfortunately, the Islanders don't have it together this year. Yeah. And the Capitals are not going to drop they're not going to drop for like the next 40% of their season here. They'll find back. They'll find their groove. They'll get back into it. And they're going to finish in the upper 90s, lower 100s. And that's without the trade deadline. Because if they get themselves a goalie, and it could be Brandon Holtby, who the heck knows about that one. But if Washington gets himself a steady goalie, look out.
Yeah, and Boston slipped a little bit, obviously, with Rask trying to make the comeback, and he was, he ended up retiring. You got a goaltending situation in Boston too with Olmark and Swayman. Do you rely on them? And obviously you had an injury to Bergeron for a little bit, Marchand with the suspension, so they slipped a little bit. But again, they're still on 95-point pace right this minute without making any moves or anything at the deadline. So that's why you just have to just sit back and say, look, it's not going to happen. They're not going to win. You're not going to go the Islanders are not going 14-3 or 14-2-1 to be able to get themselves in. It'd be wonderful if it did. I'd be the first one to be jumping up and down if they did. But you just got to be realistic. You take what you got now. Again, as Paul said, you watch your kids develop. You see what happens. You retool this puppy up, and next year we'll be happy for year 2 at UBS.
I think the 8 teams that you see in the East now are the 8 teams that are going to make the playoffs. I don't think Columbus is going to catch anybody.
No.
At this point, Detroit's not going to catch anybody. We're not going to catch anybody. I mean, barring a catastrophe, that's it. I think the East is set with their playoff teams.
That's true.
All right, Gary, we're going to put you in a hot seat one last time here. Joe and I are at odds. Does Semyon Varlamov get traded at the trade deadline?
Wow.
Yeah.
I was wondering when this question was going to come up.
Yeah.
A couple of minutes, huh? Nice job. I'm going to say 60-40 he goes.
Ooh.
The reason I say 60-40 he goes is because looking back at your Bridgeport situation, Skarek was your AHL goaltender of the month. He's had signs of brilliance. He's had a great relationship with Corey Schneider, who's been working with him there too. I think that's a big, big plus to have somebody there, first big full year, in the AHL trying to develop his game, to have somebody with the pedigree of a Corey Schneider working with him. I think that makes big, big signs. I don't think if he was playing the way that he was, that I think that 60-40 would go 30-70. But since Scarrick has done so well and the confidence is up, I think you could do it and get Scarrick a chance when you're bringing the kids up. You bring him and slide him into that spot.
Okay.
I say Varley goes to the Knights. And I think Colorado's going to be looking for a defensive forward. I don't think they're going to get a defenseman, but I think you could see Varley as a Knight, Clutterbuck, and maybe Varley as an Avalanche.
Yeah, Jim brought up Varley back to Colorado for a first. They don't have a first rounder in this year's draft. So if Varlamov's going to get traded to Colorado for a first, it would be 2023, which I'm not going to lie, isn't that valuable, especially when Colorado is looking for a Stanley Cup run. I would definitely take a top 32 pick from Colorado this year, then a top 32 pick next year. So if Colorado is going to really make a deal, it's got to be a really good hockey deal for Lou to actually pull the trigger with Varlamov to Colorado. So I like Stroh here. I believe Varley will be traded either by the deadline or in the offseason. For me, I think if Varley is going to get traded, I would probably be in the offseason. It would make more sense. More teams would be available. More cap would be available. And then it's a really good sign of, whether or not teams can afford him. Is Varley going to go? He does have a modified no trade clause somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So, that's still on Varley.
He gave
something like that. Yeah. But that's still on Varley. If he doesn't want to go anywhere, he's not going anywhere. And that's why I'm on that no. I don't think Varlamov wants to go anywhere. Why would you? With everything we've talked about tonight, there's no reason why Varlamov would want to leave, at least for one more year.
That's true. No, I totally understand that, but I just, like I said, it's just Scarrick that kind of helps that equation a little bit better.
Sure. No. That's fine. And again, I've got no problem with a 3-goalie rotation. After the trade deadline, you sit Varlamov for a little while. You rest him up. You give Scar, 5 games, by the end of the season. So who knows? We'll see. We got 3 weeks away. Folks, don't worry about it. The Islanders know what they're doing. There's a plan in place. We'll all get through it, and this is just a blip this year. Yeah? Relax. Deep breath, Gary. You okay now?
Totally fine.
So thank you guys once again for joining us. Don't forget to follow Isles Talk on YouTube. Hit that like and subscribe button, and follow Isles Talk on Twitter and Facebook. And Gary, where can they find you again?
At IslesMet63 is the new change in handle. Again, I'm not on the radio anymore, but you're stuck with me, so too bad. And
Joe, if they want to have a pleasant conversation with you,
at Joe Panettiere on Twitter.
Good.
Gary, no more radio show.
Yeah. Well, as I said, my partner John, over the Christmas holiday, he lost both his mother and his brother, and those were his two primary caregivers. For those who don't know, John, my former radio host, John is blind, and he lived with his mom, his parents, and his older brother, and his mother been sick for a long time, and like I said, she went right at Christmas, and his brother had stage 4 cancer and died about 3 weeks later.
So sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So right now, what the situation is, they're looking to see what he's got. A couple of other brothers that live on Long Island. He also has a brother that lives up in the Buffalo area that he's very close with, and I don't know what's going to be his living situation at this point. So I think that's still a situation up in the air. So with that, and we was just getting too much of a chore to do the radio show. So like I said, WGBB's
he's here. He's here, and we're so thankful he's here. So, alrighty, guys. John, you're in our thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, John.
We'll see you soon at some point. Everybody, thanks for coming. We'll probably do another show next week. We'll see how the Islanders do. We'll talk about that West Coast swing that they're finishing up tomorrow, and we'll talk about we'll dissect a few more of their games next week if anybody else is catching our eye in Bridgeport, and maybe I'll go through some of the prospects next week. So we'll go from there. So from all of us here at Isles Talk, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys next Monday. Let's go Islanders.
Let's go.